The moment your salary hits your account, it's already gone. EMI auto debit. Rent, subscriptions, insurance, groceries. You know that feeling when the month has just begun, but you're scared to check your bank balance because what if that confirms you're overthinking? And then you think, if I were really doing well, why does it still feel tight? Well, buddy, doing better financially rarely feels like feeling rich. I'm Jack, and I'll show you the actual signs you're actually ahead. And don't forget to subscribe, because no one teaches this part of money. Your EMIs are not red flags. Having EMIs doesn't mean you're bad with money. In many cases, it means the opposite. It means someone looked at your income, your history, your patterns, and decided you were reliable. That's trust, quantified. The real distinction isn't debt versus no debt, it's productive debt versus survival debt. Survival debt is borrowing just to stay afloat, credit cards for groceries, loans to pay rent, money that doesn't create anything beyond temporary relief. Productive debt is different. Education loans, a reasonably priced car that gets you to work, a home that replaces rent. These are tools. They're bets placed on your future earning power. Banks don't hand out long-term loans casually. They lend to people who show consistency, steady income, predictable behavior, the ability to plan ahead. Every EMI you pay on time quietly strengthens that profile. It's just compounding credibility. And you know what you're doing? Managing commitments over time. You're thinking in months and years, not just next week. That mindset shift matters more than a temporarily high bank balance. Financial growth rarely starts with zero debt. It starts with controlled leverage, using money responsibly before you fully own it, and proving you can be trusted with more. And that quiet stability shows up most clearly when life throws you a curveball. Your life has a financial autopilot. Bills get paid without panic. Auto debits go through, and you don't hold your breath waiting for the notification. At some point, they started feeling normal. You don't check your bank balance before every transaction anymore because you have a margin. You trust that groceries will go through. You tap your card without mentally subtracting numbers in real time. That constant background math, the exhausting habit of calculating every swipe, has loosened its grip. Behavioral finance has a name for this: reduced cognitive load. When money is scarce, your brain stays in survival mode. When stability increases, your mind is freed up for other things: work, creativity, planning, rest. That mental space is not accidental, it's earned. This matters more than it sounds. Scarcity starts in the brain, and when money stops dominating your thoughts, even quietly, it's a signal that your financial foundation is stronger than you think. When emergencies stop breaking you, your future suddenly feels reachable. Your emergency isn't a catastrophe anymore. There was a time when a single unexpected expense could knock the wind out of you. A cracked phone screen didn't just mean inconvenience, it meant panic. A medical bill didn't mean stress, it meant sleepless nights, frantic calculations, and that quiet dread of who you'd have to call for help. When money is fragile, emergencies feel personal. They feel like proof that you're one bad moment away from everything falling apart. And now your phone breaks and you're annoyed, but you're not devastated. You sigh, maybe complain a little, maybe delay the replacement by a month. But your life doesn't freeze. A medical expense shows up and yes, it's stressful, but it's manageable. You look at your options. You don't immediately spiral into worst-case scenarios. You might dip into savings instead of borrowing from 5 different people. You might reshuffle a few plans rather than overhaul your entire life. That's not luck. That's financial resilience. Resilience is all about having buffers, money, systems, and habits that absorb shocks so they don't break you. It's knowing that not every problem requires a dramatic solution. Some just require patience and a transfer from one account to another. And emotionally, this matters more than the number itself. Your nervous system responds differently. You pause instead of panicking. You assess instead of reacting. You feel discomfort, not fear. That moment, that deep exhale where you realize, this is inconvenient, but I'll be okay, is one of the clearest signs you're doing better financially than you give yourself credit for. And this is where things start to feel almost boring. You think in months and years. One of the clearest signs your finances have stabilized is how far ahead your mind is willing to travel. There was a phase where life was measured in paydays. Fridays mattered more than months. Decisions were made based on what would survive until the next salary credit. Long-term plans felt like a luxury you couldn't afford to think about. Now, your calendar looks different. You plan trips before checking payday. Not recklessly, just confidently enough to know the money will catch up. You think about next year's goals without immediately dismissing them as unrealistic. You talk about where you want to be in 6 months, 12 months, even 5 years, and it doesn't feel like fiction, it feels like logistics. You've also learned how to delay gratification without feeling punished by it. You can wait. You can choose later over now without resentment. That's patience backed by stability. When money is constantly tight, waiting feels painful. When you're secure, waiting feels strategic. Psychology backs this up. Future-oriented thinking increases as financial security improves. When your basic needs are covered and shocks are survivable, your brain finally has permission to look ahead. It stops obsessing over immediate threats and starts considering possibilities. Those in financial survival mode can't afford long-term thinking. It's not a mindset issue, it's a resource issue. Planning requires slack. Vision requires breathing room. That calm does something interesting to your desires too. You're boring with money. At some point, money stops being exciting. No dramatic wins, no terrifying crashes, no months where you feel on top of the world followed by weeks of quiet damage control. And oddly enough, that calm can feel underwhelming, almost suspicious. There's no last-minute bill juggling anymore. You're not moving money around at 11:58 p.m. hoping a payment clears. You're not relying on timing, luck, or a miracle. Things just get paid, on time, repeatedly. That alone would have felt impossible once. You've also stopped making adrenaline-fueled money decisions. No impulsive purchases to feel ahead. No risky bets to fix everything quickly. No emotional spending followed by financial regret. Your choices are slower, less dramatic, and honestly, a little dull. And that dullness can feel uncomfortable if chaos used to be your baseline. When you've lived in financial instability, urgency feels normal. Calm can feel like stagnation. But that's a memory talking, not reality. Boring money is safe money. Stability doesn't entertain you, it protects you. It gives you consistency, predictability, and space to focus on things that actually move your life forward. The absence of drama is evidence of it. When your finances stop demanding constant attention, they're finally doing what money is supposed to do. And while fewer things excite you, something far more important is happening in the background. Your wants have become specific. One of the sneakiest signs you're doing well financially is how much you don't want anymore. There was a time when everything looked tempting. Every sale, every trend, every upgrade felt urgent, like skipping it meant falling behind. Wanting everything was a response to uncertainty, not abundance. Now, your wants have narrowed. You say no without spiraling into FOMO. Not because you're forcing discipline, but because you genuinely don't feel pulled in every direction. You don't buy things just to feel ahead, or to prove progress to yourself or anyone else. Spending has stopped being a performance. You've also started valuing quality over quantity. Fewer purchases, better ones. Things that last. Things you actually use. This isn't minimalism as an aesthetic, it's clarity. When money feels unstable, people chase volume. More things, more options, more reassurance. When stability grows, preferences sharpen. And this is where people misread themselves. They assume wanting less means they're deprived or falling behind. In reality, it often means the opposite. Your internal sense of security has improved enough that you don't need constant external validation through spending. Behavioral finance calls this a milestone for a reason. Contentment isn't laziness or settling, it's confidence. It's knowing that you can have things, but you don't need everything. And that quiet selectiveness is financial maturity. That protection changes how you relate to money itself. You're quietly insured against life. Some of the most important money decisions you've made will never feel exciting. No dopamine hit. No treat yourself energy. Just a quiet sense of preparation for things you hope never actually happen. And that's exactly why people underestimate them. Health insurance, life cover, an emergency fund sitting there doing absolutely nothing most days. These don't feel like achievements because they're invisible when everything is going well. You can't show them off. You don't feel richer because of them. But they're working in the background, absorbing risk so it doesn't land directly on you. This is a form of wealth that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't grow loudly. It protects. When something goes wrong, and eventually something always does, it keeps one bad event from turning into a financial collapse. That protection is priceless, even if it feels boring. People often confuse wealth with what they can spend, but real financial strength includes what you don't lose. The hospital bill that doesn't wipe out your savings. The crisis that doesn't force you into debt. The problem that stays a problem instead of becoming a life-altering setback. If you've built systems that catch you when life throws something unexpected, you're further along than you realize. You've invested in stability over spectacle. So if all of this is true, why does it still feel like you're behind? You're not ashamed to look at your numbers. There's a particular kind of fear that comes from not wanting to look, not opening bank statements, not checking balances, not asking questions. For a long time, avoidance feels easier than clarity because numbers can feel like judgment, like proof you're failing. Then you check your statements without fear, just neutrality. You know roughly where your money goes each month. You might not track every detail, but nothing feels mysterious or out of control. The numbers don't surprise you anymore. You also don't dodge conversations about money. Whether it's discussing rent, savings, investments, or future plans, you're present. You don't shut down or deflect. You might still feel cautious, but you're not ashamed. That's a massive shift. This is where awareness becomes a form of wealth. Knowing your numbers gives you power, even when they're not perfect. It allows you to adjust instead of react, to plan instead of panic. Clarity turns money from an emotional threat into a practical tool. Avoidance is a poverty habit, not because poor people are irresponsible, but because scarcity makes honesty feel dangerous. When you're barely getting by, looking too closely can feel overwhelming. Stability changes that relationship. It makes truth feel survivable. Because real financial progress doesn't feel like a finish line. You're comparing up. One reason your financial progress feels underwhelming has very little to do with your actual situation and everything to do with what you're comparing it to. You're not measuring yourself against reality. You're measuring yourself against a carefully edited feed. Social media shows peaks, not baselines. Big purchases, milestones, celebrations. What you don't see are the ordinary months, the budgeting, the constraints, the trade-offs, the waiting. You're watching someone's highlight reel and stacking it up against your everyday life. So you start comparing your middle to someone else's moment, your steady progress to their visible win. And of course it feels slow. Anyone would feel behind in that comparison. Many financially secure people feel this way too. Stability doesn't come with a constant sense of arrival. It often comes with higher awareness, bigger goals, and sharper comparison. The more you grow, the more you notice how far there still is to go. That feeling of being behind isn't evidence of failure. It's often a side effect of growth. It means your reference point has shifted upward. You're looking ahead, not down. The distortion isn't in your numbers, it's in the lens you're using to view them. And feeling behind doesn't mean you are. Financially well doesn't feel like winning. Real financial success rarely feels like a victory lap. There's no soundtrack, no dramatic reveal, no moment where everything suddenly clicks and you feel rich. Instead, it shows up quietly, in the absence of panic, in the space between problems. It doesn't announce itself because it doesn't need to. It works in the background, reducing stress rather than creating excitement. It gives you options instead of pressure. It buys you time to think, to plan, to rest, to choose. And time is one of the most underrated forms of wealth there is. When you're financially well, life doesn't feel perfect. It just feels manageable. Inconveniences stay inconveniences. Setbacks don't become disasters. You spend less energy surviving and more energy living. So if your life isn't collapsing every time money is mentioned, you're probably doing better than you think. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you worry about your net worth after this, make sure to check out our video to find out how much it is supposed to be.